Now, the number 3 player in the transfer portal is Ajani Cornelius, offensive tackle from Rhode Island. He is set to decide where he's going to play the future of his college career on National Signing Day. He's taken official visits to, in this order, Nebraska, Oregon, Tennessee, and Ohio State. He's 6'4", 315. He's got 3 years to play 2. Here's the deal. He's going to be a day one player for you. I'm just going to say that right now. He's going to play for you as soon as he gets on campus. Hit the portal, and a lot of people didn't really know who he was. I don't think he had too many stars next to his name coming out of high school. Some of that might be by nature of where he went to high school in the state of New York. Not to knock the state of New York, just not a place that a lot of these scouts look super closely at, but he got in the portal and he blew up, okay? Over 20 offers in like 2 days. So he's a hot commodity. As I already said, the number 3 player in the entire transfer portal. So someone's going to get a dog in Ajani Cornelius. Here's what you get in him. He's a really good athlete, very twitchy. They like the way that he has a quick strike, which is crucial for the offensive line position, especially at tackle, where you're dealing with just absolute freak shows coming off the edge and bringing the club and rip. You know, that's what they do with the hands, club and rip. He's going to be able to have some physicality up against that. So bottom line, in today's modern college football, you need guys like Ajani Cornelius. So he's going to make somebody very, very happy. Held Jared Verse to 0 sacks when they had a matchup against each other when Jared Verse was at Albany. Jared Verse obviously made a lot of noise nationally at Florida State after he hit the portal. Also had a really strong showing this year against Pitt and their defensive line. They had 45 sacks on the year, led the country, did Pitt. Ajani Cornelius showed up, balled out, put a resume on tape, and now has quite a few options. So starting with Nebraska, why is it important for them to get Ajani Cornelius? Well, first and foremost, they weren't great on the offensive line last year. Not to knock the Cornhuskers, they had a 9% sack rate, meaning out of all the snaps they took, 9% of those ended in a sack. It's good for 101st in the country. Matt Rule is there to reinstill this tough brand of football, to get Nebraska back to being the old Nebraska, being that blue-collar operation. We're going to hit you in the mouth. That starts on the line of scrimmage. Adding Ajani Cornelius would help intensify that in my mind. So a very, very big deal for them to get him on campus, if for no other reason to shore up what they do in the pass game and help them out there. If you're not subscribed, would love to have you at the party. This is your place 12 months out of the year for everything that you know that you love about college football. We got you locked in. Also, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Pickell. The DMs are always open. The mentions are always open. Want to hear from y'all. I'm going to give you my opinion, but I want to hear from you, and that's a great medium for us to do that. All right? Oregon is another program that got an official visit from Ajani Cornelius, and Dan Lanning is building, in my mind, an SEC kind of program out there in Eugene. Excuse me, SEC-style program with a U, because he also subscribes to that kind of logic when it comes to building his team. It starts in the trenches. I mean, you look at these teams that play big games in January or late December or have meaningful games the last week of the season in November. It starts in the trenches. All those teams are tough. And so for Dan Lanning, they got Bo Nix coming back. You want to be able to protect him as effectively as possible and tee him up for success as much as possible. Adding Ajani Cornelius doesn't, solve all your problems that you could potentially have. I'm not saying they got problems with the offensive line. I'm just saying you get better adding Ajani Cornelius to that offensive line. It's not a solve for everything, but like I said, it's a huge deal in today's era of college football. So that's a big part. Tennessee is a school that would love to have Ajani Cornelius. And this may be, I think, one of the most important gets for Tennessee. Not that if they don't get him, they're in trouble or something like that, but they're going to break in a new quarterback next season. Hendon Hooker, and the legend that he is, he's gone to the NFL. And I think for whoever that quarterback is, if Ajani Cornelius is playing tackle, you just sleep a little bit better at night. Whether it's Nico Iamaleava or it's Joe Milton, they're both going to be, in a new position, to say the least. Joe Milton's played some quarterback before at the collegiate level, before transferring to Tennessee, played well in the game against Vanderbilt, but it makes your life a whole lot easier when you can take a 3-step drop, 3 and a hitch, and know that your blind side is taken care of. Allows you to process the defense a little more comfortably, and just as one less thing to worry about at the quarterback position. So for whoever that new quarterback is, I think that's going to be crucial to have that side of the line at least taken care of. Ajani Cornelius would, in every sense of the word, do that. On top of that, Tennessee, for as explosive as they are and as many highlights as they put on tape, throwing the deep ball and hitting the home run pass play, they're a run-first kind of operation. Right around 54% of the time, they are pounding the rock. So you add Ajani Cornelius, according to Pro Football Focus, a top 3 run blocker last year at the FCS level. So you also add some nasty there and can just continue to do well, what you already did well, and keep your same kind of identity on that offensive line. So Tennessee, goes without saying, would love to get Ajani Cornelius onto their program. Now, Ohio State, they got the last official visit from Ajani Cornelius. How much does that mean? I think we're going to see. They lose both their tackles likely next year to the NFL. They're breaking a new quarterback, like I mentioned, with Tennessee, so that's important for them. It just gives you peace of mind because you lose not one but both tackles. Okay, so having some more security, that's crucial. And here's how I see this too. For Ohio State, and this is why we love college football, man, the main thing is always going to be the main thing for them, and that's beating Michigan. And for them to beat Michigan, I think you need to build like Michigan. I think you need to build the trenches strong and nasty and powerful and pack it full of guys like Ajani Cornelius. Now, that's not to say that the Ohio State offensive line, in any sense of the word, is lackluster. Okay, I'm not saying that they're just out there rolling around with just some JV level guys. Of course, that's not the case. But I'm saying to beat Michigan, the trenches need to be solidified. Maybe you look more on the defensive side than the offensive side, but I'm just going to say you got to have a set. You got to have the offensive and defensive line rocked and ready to roll to beat whoever it is across from you, starting with Michigan, which is number 1 on the checklist for them. All right? So that's the schools for him. We're going to break it all down when his commitment happens tomorrow. But make sure you're locked in here, whether it's Nebraska, Oregon, Tennessee, Ohio State, they all need him. They all need him for different reasons. But in today's era of college football, you got to have somebody to lock it down on the edge because you got some absolute just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming off the edge with what today's defensive line is in college football. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.